Happy Monday. It's the first show of the year. Yeah, I decided to start a new season. So I'm going to start season 3 with some fireworks. But welcome to the new year. Welcome to 2022. And let's start it off with some fireworks. Okay, Happy New Year, everybody. I hope you had a good New Year's celebration, good holiday, all that good stuff. Hope you stepped into the new year with a new attitude and all the things. Okay, so I wanted to change everything for the next season, for season 3, which we're starting now. But I couldn't pull it together, and I just decided to just baby step it, just one thing at a time. So I'll talk more about my intention for season 3 in a second. But let me do my introductory things. This is the 3rd day of January, so we're still at the beginning. I like that. We haven't gotten too far into the new year before we did this show. But this is the 3rd day of January. This is the first episode of season 3 of the Be Your Own Hero show, and 151st episode overall, 151. Okay, so HERO is an acronym. It means helping everyone reaps optimism. In other words, helping others helps you. It's a reciprocal action. I'm your host. My name is Sekouwrites. I am a professional creative and the creator of what I've been calling the HERO Ministry Movement. And that is essentially my effort to uplift and inspire the unhoused community, at first through wearable affirmations like this hoodie, and it has expanded and expanded and expanded some more. Okay. Quick disclaimer, I am not a personal trainer, nor am I a financial advisor, so do your own due diligence. Shout out to New Thought Media Network for allowing me this platform and for expanding my time. Those of you who've been watching the show for a while know that this started off as a segment of Rev Melissa's show, just a couple seconds there, and then a couple minutes there, and then 15 minutes solo, and now a half hour solo. So I am grateful to New Thought Media Network for allowing that expansion to happen. So appreciate that. Check them out at ntmedia.org to see the other programming on the network and also to make a donation. NT Media, the New Thought Media Network, is a nonprofit, so your donations are tax deductible. Okay, that said, check me out here Monday through Friday, 9:45 a.m. Eastern Time, for new episodes of the Be Your Own Hero show. If you miss an episode, you can always watch the replay on my Facebook page or my YouTube page, or the Facebook and YouTube pages for New Thought Media Network. Okay, last but not least, if this show provides any value, please like, please comment, please share. Don't keep it all to yourself. If you feel like there was something good, spread the joy and also make a donation. All that information is in the show notes, which is, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, you can just scroll up and you'll see some text underneath the show. It has all the information in it. Okay, so I think that's all the introductory stuff. Let's get into some HERO Ministry Movement news. Before I do that, shout out to the heroes in the chat. Shout out to Tim with the cup of coffee and the Happy New Year's. What is that thing called? I can't even remember what it's called, but obviously it's a celebratory item. All right, shout out to Gladys. Shout out to Linda. First Monday of 2022. Yes, it is the first Monday of 2022. That's an auspicious day to start the show. I appreciate that. Okay, so lots of small things I want to talk about in terms of HERO Ministry Movement news. So first, as I said, I'm starting a new season. That's mostly in terms of how I think about the progression. So season 1 was essentially finding my legs. As I mentioned earlier, it started off as just a segment of Rev Mel's show. And at that point, it was an update as to what was going on with HERO hoodies specifically, because that's all it was at that point. I was doing HERO hoodie drops in different cities and making donations to different nonprofits and to the unhoused. And then it has expanded and expanded. And so when it became its own show, it was kind of finding the rhythm, season 1. And season 2, obviously, was about financial abundance. And season 3, I'm calling the doing season. The doing season, like kind of putting it in action. putting all of it in action, but really putting the financial information in action. So I hope that bears out. That's my intention, and we'll just play it as it goes. So that said, I started off the new year. I would love to hear how you guys celebrated the new year. So drop that in the chat, and I'll get to those in a second. But how I started the new year was very serendipitous. There was a run, which was co-sponsored by Black Men Run, Black Men Run Nashville chapter, and Fleet Feet, which is a sneaker store that I still haven't been to. I have to get there. But anyway, they had a run called a resolution run, like a New Year's resolution run. It was early in the morning on the very first day of the year, which happened to be a Saturday. So early in the morning on Saturday, which is the normal run day for Black Men Run. So this happened to coincide. And it was great. It was great. It was a big group of folks. Just to be clear, Black Men Run is a nonprofit organization that is a brotherhood of like inspiring others to be fit, but is not exclusive. So it's a very inclusive group. So anyway, I say all that to say there were lots of people there, different races, different ages, across the board. I'm smiling right now because I'm thinking about this young boy who ran right past me, but I'm not going to get into that right now. Anyway, it was a really good run, and it was a really good fulfilling way to start the year. Lots of fellowship, lots of laughter, and a nice physical way to start the year. We ran a 5K, and we ran in perfect weather. Like, it was like a summer day, 70 degrees, bright, sunshiny. Later that day, it was stormy, and there were tornado alerts, I think, later that day. But that morning, it was amazing. So we had an amazing run. Okay, so anyway, let me know how you celebrated the new year in the chat. And here is an addition to Studio D. I've been adding things bit by bit, but I got a new medal. Look at this. Look how big this thing is. Not only is it big, it spins. This part spins. Very cool, right? So I got this medal for a 5K that I ran on September 11th of last year. I ran it virtually in New York, but this event, the Steps for Success 5K, happens here in Nashville. I hope you all have seen my interview with Demetrius Short, who is the founder of Steps for Success. That's a nonprofit. I did the interview here as I was filling in for Rev Melissa, and I interviewed Demetrius Short here. And this is his 5K, and they raise a lot of money, and they do a lot of good work. And I'm grateful that I was able to participate virtually and get my medal, which is very cool. It's very cool. So adding that to Studio D. Okay, what else? Today is day 217 of my run streak. The light's doing something really interesting. That's pretty cool. Anyway, this is day 217 of my run streak. It snowed overnight last night into this morning, so this was a snow run. And the funny thing about my run today is that there's snow on the cars and on the lawns, but the sidewalk was clear. So I now, jogged along on the sidewalk, did my run. I was like, oh, cool, I'm not gonna have to run on any snow. And it wasn't until the very last leg of my run, the overpass over the highway, the stairs were dry going up. So I was surprised when I got to the top and I saw that it was all snow and ice over the overpass. And I thought, in that moment, isn't that just like life? Like sometimes the hardest part is that last leg to get to the finish line. So anyway, I've run on ice, snow and ice before, because if you've been following my run streak, I have done most of my running outdoors because I wanted to, in some way, emulate what is happening with the unhoused out there in the world. Like, they don't have the choice to be out of the elements. And so I wanted to kind of experience what that's like for at least small periods of time. And so that's been very instructive for me. And the added benefit is I have gained experience. So this wasn't my first time running on snow and ice. So I remembered some things from the last time that made it a little bit easier. So no mishaps, no issues, smooth sailing. So that was day 217 of my run streak. I've been running every day, at least a mile a day for 217 days in a row. And we're going to keep going and see what happens. I'm eager to create another charity component of the run streak. I've mentioned that before. Haven't quite solidified anything yet, but I was talking to some folks recently about how different it feels. Like when I started running for me, it was a personal challenge. But then when it became a run for others, it hit me differently. It hit my spirit differently. And so I missed that feeling. So I will soon create a new charity element. I've been brainstorming a couple things. And as you know, I've been invited to do a couple things. So I'm just trying to get the right thing. But definitely got to make that happen in January because it orders my steps in an entirely different way. That's it. Moving on. Okay, so quick shout out to a couple of the folks that said that they are inspired by me. I got a couple of those, one today and one over the weekend. So very cool. That's very cool. So basically they said that they were inspired by me to do some fitness related thing, to start something else. So start some fitness related goals for themselves, and they were thinking about me. So I'm very excited to be an inspiration to others in that way. Okay, so let's see. I think I'm gonna mention this podcast coming up again. It's coming up on January 16th. This is Regina Smithwick. She has invited me to come on her show and talk about Get Rich 101, which is right there. That's my podcast that talks about money outside of this platform. So you might want to check that out. And also, I just wanted to circle back to resolutions. So I posted this on Facebook. So some of you may have seen this. But recently, relatively recently, past couple of years, I stopped doing New Year's resolutions and I started doing, I don't even know what to call them really. But what I do instead of New Year's resolutions is I write down what I accomplished in the previous year, what actually happened in the previous year that I was proud of. So that has been very empowering, even more than it sounds, because I think it's about the energy is focusing on what you have. The energy is focusing on what I have already, as opposed to focusing on what I want to have. And that energy feels very different. So instead of like, these are the things I want to make sure I do, it's these are the things that I've already done and I feel good about them. So I did that exercise with a couple of folks over the weekend, and it was really empowering for them too. So I invite you to do that. Whether you do resolutions or not, I invite you to celebrate yourself for the things that you already accomplished in the past year. And the past year was a rough year for a lot of folks. So celebrate yourself. Okay, that said, I'm moving on again. So let's do our morning Zen. Today's morning Zen comes to you from the Dalai Lama. And this is something that I highlighted before, I guess a year ago. And it still hits really hard. So here we go. Dalai Lama, January 3rd. To be aware of a single shortcoming within oneself is more useful than being aware of 1,000 shortcomings in somebody else. So I stumbled a little bit, so I'm going to read it again. To be aware of a single shortcoming within oneself is more useful than to be aware of 1,000 shortcomings in someone else. That's strong stuff. That's strong stuff, because how often do we sit around keeping track of other people's shortcomings instead of monitoring our own? Mind your business, stay in your lane. You don't know what that person's life trajectory is. You don't know what lessons they need to learn to move them to their highest point. You stay on your yoga mat. You stay in your yoga mat. That's essentially what that says. So I am again impressed by that message. I highlighted it again and I copied it and pasted it somewhere else. I'm gonna read it to you one more time because I feel like it's a really important one. To be aware of a single shortcoming within oneself is more useful than to be aware of 1,000 in someone else. All right. So that is the morning Zen. Okay. So moving into the money portion of the show, I figured I would finish talking about the money lessons that I began on the last episode of the year of 2021, the season finale, if you will. So I did a list of about 25 things that I felt were important and impactful in terms of money mindset. And on the season finale, I went through about 20 of them. And so I've got 5 left that I want to talk about, and we'll see where that leaves us time-wise. Okay, so before I do that, let me just check and see what's going on with the comments. There's more. More Happy New Year's. Yeah, I don't know what that thing is either, Tim, but it's very, very celebratory. Okay, so in terms of the other 5 things that I didn't quite get to on the last episode of the year, again, I'm highlighting my biggest money lessons personally. So number 21 was invest in yourself. You are your biggest asset, so you must invest in yourself. As we're talking about investing and the importance of investing and how investing is not optional, like you must invest, you also must invest in yourself. You've got to give yourself the opportunity to continue to grow. Who was I watching? I was watching Jay Shetty this weekend, and he was talking about how once people get to a certain age range, like 30s, 40s, 50s, and above, people stop learning. They just stop seeking out knowledge. They start just entertaining themselves and not learning. And he suggests that the way you maintain your youth is by learning. There's something that happens in the brain. It fires and wires in a certain way when you keep learning, especially if you try to learn something hard. Like learning a language, for example, is one of the best ways to fire and wire your brain for youth, for longevity. So anyway, that's a bit of a tangent, but the point is we should invest in ourselves, find something to learn, especially circling back to something I said in the first 20 items, especially if there's something that we're learning can be a high income skill, because then you're wiring yourself for success and longevity and youth, and also adding a skill to your repertoire that could change your financial life. So 21, invest in yourself because you are your own biggest asset. Okay, 22, your money is not safe. Your money is not safe. This is something that I've been trying to drill home for myself, because again, a lot of these lessons that I've learned are counterintuitive to things that I learned in life. So the idea that putting money into savings and into some of the tools that we've heard a lot about, IRAs, pensions, etc., that it's not safe in those places is a bit of a shift in terms of mentality. But that's the learning that I've been coming to. It's not safe in the places that we think it's safe in, because number one, we're not earning the amount of interest that we need to be earning. And again, we said on the season finale that we need to be earning at least 10% or better on our money. And also because of fees, the hidden fees that in a lot of the tools that are promoted for savings, like 401ks, IRAs, pension funds, etc., there are hidden, and financial advisors. I don't want to forget that. And financial advisors, there are hidden fees. Hidden in that the fees are listed, but it doesn't tell you that they're compound fees, which means the fee gets bigger and bigger and bigger as the amount of money you have saved gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I gave an example maybe a couple of weeks ago of a portfolio where at the end of the time period, I think this was for a mutual fund, and at the end of the time period, the person was able to extract $100,000, which is not bad, but the fees added up to $400,000. $400,000 versus $100,000. Like, that's mind-boggling. So really, really digest the idea of your money not being safe in the places where you have it, and investigate. Look for the fees, find out if they're compound fees. And if they are compound fees, you're probably best taking that money out of wherever it is and taking the penalty and moving that money into an index fund in the stock market, where you're going to get like 10 to 30% return based on historical performance, which is not definitively an indicator of future performance, but the index funds have done historically well and barely stumbled at all during the pandemic. And I think right now, the S&P 500 is about 9.7%. So like that 9.7% return plus dividends can easily recoup whatever fee you have to pay to extract your funds from that tool. So anyway, do the research. I'm not a financial advisor, but look into it if you've got your money in a place that you quote unquote consider safe. Okay, so that's 21 and 22. 23, use debt to buy assets. Use debt to buy assets. Again, that's another one that I really have to work to get my mind around. Because what happens is, like, let's use an easy example of getting debt. You might apply for a credit card and stick that credit card in a drawer to save for emergencies. Well, the wealthy might get that same credit card, but they already know the asset they're going to buy with that debt. So let's just use an easy example. Let's just say a vending machine. They get a credit card, right? Apply for a new credit card. And as soon as they get the credit card, they'll buy the vending machine, and the vending machine starts spitting money back into their pockets, into their investments, and they'll spend a portion of that money, the money that's coming in, to pay off the debt. So let's just say they got a credit card for $1,000. They bought a vending machine for $1,000. But now the vending machine is making money, and the money that the vending machine is making, a portion of that income goes to paying off the $1,000 debt of the credit card. So it's just really a shift in mindset about how to use debt as a tool. Richard Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, calls it other people's money. And many other people do as well. Use other people's money to buy assets, and then use the revenue from the assets to pay for your liabilities. It's a really empowering way to think about it. And it just requires practice. You just got to practice thinking about debt as a tool, as opposed to something that needs to be avoided at all costs. Okay, that's 23. Number 24, don't expend energy on saving money. Expend energy on making more money. There's a quote I saw recently that said, it's easier to make an extra $10,000 than it is to save $10,000. And that hit me kind of hard. It's easier to make an extra $10,000 than it is to save $10,000. So it's just about where you put your energy. And remember that everything that you focus on expands. So if you're focused on, there's my alarm to start wrapping it up. If you focus on saving money, then all your energy goes to saving money. And that same energy could go to finding more revenue, creating more revenue streams, investing better, so that you get, again, more money in to take care of what needs to be taken care of. So it's just about, again, this is just a shift in terms of where you expend your energy. Expend less energy thinking about saving money, and more energy thinking about making more money, which, by the way, is about creating value. That's a whole other thing, whole other rabbit hole that I fell down. That increasing the amount of money you make is really about increasing the value you give. So we'll table that for a later discussion. Okay, so next item is essentially what I was talking about before in terms of using debt to buy assets. This is learn to buy assets to pay for liabilities. It's basically the same thing. So just to add some more detail. So a liability is anything you pay for that never puts money back into your pocket. So that's most of the things we buy, right? But the asset, any asset, is something that does the opposite. It appreciates in value, or it can create revenue. So I used the vending machine a little while ago, but what about a comic book? If you know the right comic book to buy, it can appreciate in value, and then you can have it registered, licensed, insured, all the things you need to do to have it listed as an asset, the same as stock. So it's a part of your portfolio. It's a part of your net worth. So it's really, and by the way, that's what happens with art, right? People spend a lot of money on art, but then that art appreciates in value and it becomes part of the owner's net worth. So it's a really interesting way to think about the things around you differently. Start categorizing what's around you and what you consume in terms of assets versus liabilities. Okay, so yeah, I think that's it. Those are the other things that I wanted to mention from my long list of money lessons. And just to reiterate what I said at the very beginning of that list, on Friday, the last Friday of the year, investing is not optional. Investing is not optional. Investing is not optional. So if you haven't done it yet, make sure you do it now. Make sure you do it soon. And again, season 3 is about doing. That is the emphasis of the season. And so we're going to be talking more about how to do, when to do, and it is my hope that I will have some guests on the show to talk more about things that I know a little bit about, but who could do a deeper dive, who could offer a deeper dive, and maybe I'll invite them to make themselves available to you guys for one-on-one sessions. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, so coming up next is prayer time. And then after that is Sit with Rev Melissa. Rev Melissa is back from her winter solstice, so she'll be live today. So tune in for that. And I'll be popping in maybe to say a couple words. We'll see how it goes. So keep doing, be a hero, be your own hero. Remember that now is better than perfect, and make sure that you are investing because it is not optional. And I'll see you tomorrow.